Hi there! In this video I will show you how to knit the points of the snowflake. All in all, we're gonna have six smaller points and six longer points that kind of look like little trees. So here's our centerpiece that we made in the previous video, and we're gonna follow the pattern, and the pattern says to move the next 7 stitches to the tip of your needle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches. We're gonna move them to the tip of our circular needle. If you were using scrap yarn, you'll just place these 7 stitches onto your needle again. Okay. Now, following the pattern, it says to bind off 2 stitches. So we're gonna bind off the next 2 stitches. One and 2. Now we place the stitch, the last stitch from the right hand needle, back onto the left hand needle, and this is something you're going to be doing all along here. You always place the last stitch back to the left hand needle. Okay, so next it says to knit it, cast on 2 stitches, and here I'm going to show you how to do it. It's really very easy. So you place your right hand needle inside this stitch on the left hand needle, pull a new stitch through, and then with a little twist you place it onto your left hand needle, and here we knitted cast on 1 stitch. So we need 2, so we're going to repeat this action only into the newly made stitch. You're going to insert your needle, pull a new stitch through, and place it back to the left hand needle. Now we have made 2 new stitches, and this is our base stitch that we already had. Next we need to bind off 2 stitches. So very easily bind off 1 and bind off 2. Place the last stitch back onto your left hand needle. Next we knitted cast on 2 more stitches. So we repeat the same process. Knit into the sorry, an alarm is going outside. It's nothing to worry about. It's just a kind of a test in the warning sign, so I'm sorry if you can hear that. It's perfectly fine. So here's 1 stitch, and then we knit into the newly made stitch, pull a new one through, and place it back onto the needle. And next we bind off 2 stitches again. 1 and 2. Here we made our second little pointy piece here, and we repeat that 1 more time. 1, 2, and once again we bind off 2 stitches that we just made. 1, 2, but the pattern actually says here to bind off 5 stitches, so we bind off 5. So this is 2, 3, 4, 5. And here we have completed our first smaller point. It's above these yarn overs we had. And now the next 2 stitches is where we're gonna have our longer point that looks like a little tree. So once again, remember to always place the last stitch back onto your left hand needle. So next, the pattern says to cast on, knitted cast on 6 stitches. So we're going to repeat the same process we did before. Knit into the stitch on the left hand needle, pull a new stitch through, place it back to your left hand needle with a little twist. That's one. Now knitting into the new stitch, we do it again. That's two. I actually need to take off my glasses because it's harder to see for me. So that's two. Knitting into the new stitch, that's three. Four. 5 and 6. Okay, next the pattern says to bind off 4 stitches, so that's exactly what we are going to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, and once again we are placing the last stitch back onto our left hand needle. Next we cast on 4 more stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and bind off 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Here we created a second branch of our little Christmas tree here. Okay, next the pattern says to cast on 3. 1, 2, 3, and bind off 2. 1 and 2. Next we're gonna cast on 4 stitches and bind off 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we bind off 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we are halfway there. Now we have the top of our little tree here. Next we cast on 2 stitches once again, then the same process, knitted cast on 2, always placing the stitch back to the left hand needle and binding off 3 this time. 1, 2, and 3, and this time we'll cast on 3 and bind off 4. 1, 2, 3, and let's bind off 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now we have only one last branch left to finish, and we're gonna cast on 4 stitches for that one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and this time the pattern says to bind off 7 stitches. So we're gonna bind off 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 7. And here we have completed the first repeat of the bind off section. One little small point and one little longer tree looking point. So next, the pattern tells you to move the following 6 stitches closer to the tip of your needle. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches. We're gonna bring them to the tip of the needle, and then we're gonna place the last stitch from the right hand needle onto the left hand needle. And now we have 7 stitches on our left hand needle again, and we're gonna repeat the same process that we just did, starting with binding off 2 stitches, and we're gonna repeat it 4 more times. I'm not actually gonna need all 4 of them right now here, because you could always kind of like go back and watch what we just did. What I have here is I have another snowflake on which I already completed all 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I only have one last set of points left. And the reason I want to show you this one is because this is where a lot of people get confused and miss one point and end up with a 5-point snowflake rather than a 6 one. And here we're gonna knit it together, so I'll show you how to do it right, okay? So in this last section, you're only going to have 6 stitches on your needles, not 7 like before. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to repeat the same process we did for the other one. And I'm missing a needle here, so I may need to use my circular needle here. Okay, so we start just as before with binding off 2 stitches. 1, 2, and here we do the same process once again. Cast on 2 stitches, bind off 2 stitches, always placing the last stitch back on your left hand needle. Cast on 2 more. 1, 2, bind off 2. 1, 2. Okay, let's cast on 2 more. 1, 2, and then the pattern says to bind off 5. So let's do it together. 1, 2, 2, 3, 5. And this is what I think confuses a lot of people. You have only one stitch left, and I think some people think that, well, there's only one stitch and it just needs to be closed and this is it, and that's where you're gonna miss that last final 6 points on the snowflake, when in fact that very last longer point grows out of this one stitch. And so we're gonna place the stitch back onto your left hand needle, and we're going to do the same sequence for the longer snowflake we did before, the longer point as we did before. So we're gonna knit it, cast on 6 stitches, knitting into this last stitch, 1, without, make sure you don't slip this first base stitch, it's very important. So keeping it on your left hand needle, place a new stitch on, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a little bit awkward for me to show you because I have this camera in front of me, so I know it's actually easier when you do it with the needles closer to you than what I'm trying to do here and show you. Well, anyway, so now we bind off 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Place the stitch back to your left hand needle and cast on 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and bind off 3. Bind off 3. 1, 2, 3. Next we cast on 3 more. 1, 2, 3, and bind off 2. Bind off 2. 1, 2. Oh, that's it. 1, 2. Now let's cast on 4 for the middle section. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're also going to bind off 4 stitches here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next we cast on 2. 1, 2, and bind off 3. Going this way, you always cast on fewer than you bind off, unlike the other side. And 3. Next we cast on 3. 1, 2, 3, and bind off 4. 1 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the last point is going to be knitted cast on 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this time we're only going to cast on 6 instead of 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we have 1 stitch left on our right hand needle. The next thing we do is we insert our needle under the very first bound of stitch. I think it's this one here. Yes, I think it's this one here. So we're gonna insert the needle there, pull a new stitch through, and now we're gonna slip over the stitch from right hand needle over the stitch on the left hand needle, and now we're just gonna tighten. I usually just pull the thread through. You usually cut the thread. Mine is already cut, so you'll cut the thread, pull it through the very last stitch and tighten it. And here we have it, our nice 6-point snowflake. All you have left to do now is weave in your ends with a tapestry needle, trim any ends, and here you have your leaded snowflake. Well, thank you for watching, and if you found this video tutorial helpful, and if you want to see me knit other snowflakes, please let me know in the comment section, and have fun knitting snowflakes today. Bye.